When a director needs action in the scene, he calls the Hollywood Stuntmakers. Today on Hollywood Stuntmakers, we'll meet some of the top action adventure stars and learn why some of them do their own stunts. We'll also trace the history of stunt making and find out how the need for the stunt double came about. Hollywood has been producing action films ever since they discovered audiences loved them. Out of these films came adventure stars. Here's one of today's biggest, Bruce Willis, in the high-tech action thriller Die Hard 2.
Bruce Willis wants to do his stunts himself, and sometimes Charlie and I have to calm him down and tell him not to do them because we want to keep him alive and well so that we can shoot also the following day.
We have a scene where we actually fly a real helicopter over the wing of a real 747. And I jump out of it onto the wing, and we proceed to have a huge fight with two different guys on the wing of a moving 747. I don't think that's ever been done. The snow actually turned out to be one of the characters in the film. We had to move 3 or 4 times we had to kind of chase the snow. That was really, the challenge for us, was to see whether or not we could match or top what we did in this huge action film.
How can the same thing happen to the same guy twice?
I am once again in a place that happens to be taken over by terrorists.
There's only one way to really make it look like you're trying to kill someone, and that is to try and kill them.
In the early days of motion pictures, directors and producers discovered a pretty girl, a dastardly villain, and a fearless hero could sell lots of popcorn. Romantic king of the silent screen, Rudolph Valentino swept women off their feet, yet also appealed to action-adventure film enthusiasts. Movie theater operators were hard-pressed to satisfy the insatiable appetites of an ever-growing audience. Fast-moving action scenes pulled the audience right into the story. D.W. Griffith's 1915 classic, The Birth of a Nation, the single most important film in the evolution of motion pictures, overnight this movie won worldwide respect for the medium and raised it from a mere novelty entertainment to an art form. Movies were short and silent. The story had to be right up there on the screen. Heroes were brave, fearless, and most of all, physical. They jumped onto moving trains, had swashbuckling sword fights, a shootout or two. And that was all before lunch. Stars usually performed their own stunts. Chicago businessman Max Aronson transformed himself into Bronco Billy Anderson. Bronco Billy made hundreds of two-reeler westerns, and his first job as a bit player in Thomas Edison's The Great Train Robbery. Anderson claimed to be an expert horseman. After mounting the horse from the wrong side and later being thrown off, his deception was quite apparent, and he was shifted to on-foot activity for the rest of the two-reel epic. He eventually learned to ride well enough and occasionally even leaped onto a horse. America fell in love with the Western hero. Tom Mix became one of the screen's biggest stars and insisted on doing all of his own stunts. This made the studio heads unhappy and kept studio doctors busy. During his long career, Tom broke both ankles, both hands, each leg 4 times, cracked several ribs, and had to have both of his shoulders wired together. But the cowboys weren't the only stunt actors. When we continue, we'll take a look at a comedian who was determined to make you laugh or die trying, and a star who was determined to be a stuntman. Silent screen star Buster Keaton, named Buster by escape artist Harry Houdini, used most of his films to explore his fascination with machines. This scene from The General has to be one of Keaton's most impressive sequences for a number of reasons. Not only because it was meticulously staged and choreographed, but that's really Keaton performing his own stunts. No trick photography here. That's a real train traveling at high speed, involving real explosions. Steamboat Bill Jr. Again, Keaton doing his own complicated gags. As you can tell from this scene, he was an innovator of early visual effects involving flyaway walls and wind machines. Keaton also made great use of his acrobatic skills, which were developed during his early days on the vaudeville stage. In this stunt, Keaton had to practically stand on a dime to ensure his safety. The building falls around him without a hitch, making this dangerous stunt look simple. His gags were not only brilliantly imaginative, but staged and timed perfectly. One of the first superstars to emerge on film was Douglas Fairbanks. Fairbanks was an accomplished athlete and loved doing his own stunts. Sometimes, while shooting the action scenes, things got a little out of hand. In one of Fairbanks' films, he took on 5 extremely tough extras in a fight scene. Apparently, they really got into their roles. After the scene, filming had to be shut down for several days for the swelling on Fairbanks' face to go down. These kind of problems led studios to hire stuntmen. The work was dangerous because few were trained for it. Most stunt people were originally hopeful actors who hung around Gower Gulch looking for work in the movies. This rural-looking setting on the corner of Gower Street and Sunset Boulevard in Hollywood is now the bustling site of a major movie studio and showbiz eatery, where many industry power brokers make their deals. D.W. Griffith's masterpiece, Intolerance. The scope of this movie still hasn't been matched today. It was one of the first films to employ thousands of extras. Between 1925 and 1930, 10,794 people were injured in California film productions. 55 died. In 1929 alone, 16 men were killed. the 30s and 40s, a whole new breed of action hero burst onto the screen. It became too dangerous for the studios to risk the lives of their major stars. People like Errol Flynn, John Wayne, Gary Cooper, and others were no longer permitted to do all their own stunts. They needed to be protected. Hollywood created a new occupation, the stunt double. Let's talk to stuntman Tom Morga, stunt double.
There's always the situation that an actor thinks he can do all his own stunts, and there's some that are very handy and can do a lot of things, but there's two factors involved. Number one, the actor probably, while he's capable, hasn't made a living at doing action, and it may not be what he thinks it's going to be. And the other side of the coin is the producer and everybody involved in the film. They can't afford to take a chance with an actor. If he were to get hurt, then the whole production is shut down. So for insurance reasons and others, you really need the stuntman to do the action.
I hurt myself pretty badly on the last one, shut down production for about 6 weeks while my back was repaired. That's on Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. But since then, been okay.
If not for the stunt double, perhaps even Ronald Reagan wouldn't have made it to Washington. As the business of stunt doubling flourished, those who performed these stunts began to make a name for themselves. Many stars had the same stunt double for years. Probably the most famous was Yakima Canute, John Wayne's double for most of Duke's long career.
I'll have you out of here in a minute.
The thrills that stunt doubles provide are often very risky. Yet Yakima Canute was always up to the task. When we return, we'll meet some of today's stars who prefer to do their own stunts. The reason actors like to do their own stunts is that it ensures the reality of the scene, adds to the integrity of the character. And take it from me, it's always exciting. And sometimes it can be really scary.
It's just a dirty job, you know. I mean, things are calculated so that there's little risk of real injury, and it's bumps and bruises go with the territory. But I think we get some very important moments when I do it myself. I think we have great moments of humor and characterization that occur in the midst of physical action that a bit characterizes these films. Often in an action-adventure film, you lose sight of your protagonist. You're on the back of the head of a stunt person. And if I can do it, I'm very happy to do it myself because of those opportunities.
It's like James Brown started off his career doing a split. I started off my career doing a push-up, and it seems like if I don't do it, it's a bad omen. And the films I've done, so many of them have been quite physical, so it's just an extension of my work.
Delta Force 2 was my most physical film, I think, of my career. Of the skydiving and the mountain climbing. The fight scenes, which I do a lot of in Delta Force 2, I've been doing for 30 years, so that's not hard to do because I'm so adept at that. But when I get involved in things that I'm not adept at, such as skydiving and mountain climbing, then it's a different type of physical exertion. And that's where my training really comes into play there, is when I have to climb a 2,000-foot mountain, then I have to really be in good physical shape. But I'd never climbed mountains before. And even though I had a safety line hooked onto the side, so if I did fall, it would grab me and swing me around the side of the mountain. But the idea of falling even an inch, looking down and seeing nothing below me, and knowing that if I fell, that would swing me around the mountain, wasn't something I wanted to do. So I was hanging on for dear life. There has been stunts that I haven't done because it was way, way too dangerous. And, well, the snatch in this film, you know, grabbing the man, was way too dangerous for me to do. The man who filmed that had done all the James Bond movies and all the stuff here, and he said it's one of the most spectacular skydiving scenes he has ever photographed.
I've gotten such tremendous joy out of working out and going to the gym and working out with the guys and lifting weights and pumping iron and all those things. I love running, I love bicycle riding and all this stuff. And all I have to do is really find out from the director on each particular film that I do, what kind of shape does he see me in this film?
Lena, hold on!
And by the end of the day, where most of the people are tired and have to live on coffee, I am still full of energy, and it's because of the weight training and because of the physical fitness stuff.
I think the audience enjoys seeing their hero actually in the frame doing the stunt. I think physically I'm able, and I trust myself to do a lot of things that are a little bit dangerous, where you know if something goes wrong, you have to be quick enough to adjust and have enough coordination to get out of it.
Well, that's the moronic side of me. Somehow I find myself, you know, usually the actor says, I don't want to do that. Give me the close-up and give me my money and let me go home. But Carl says, you want me to run through that thing over there? I'll run through it, sure. I'll show you I can do it as good as any stuntman. I say, Carl, wait a minute. Don't do that. Don't do that. You can get hurt. No, I can't. I can't get hurt. It's impossible because I'm a good athlete. I can do it. I can show you I can do it. They're going, Carl, but let me tell you something. This is really dangerous. And I go, no, just do what I have to do. Tell me where I can't be. Tell me where I have to stay on track, and I'll do it. And when I do it, and it's successful, and it looks great, then everybody's happy.
One of Hollywood's biggest stars today, Kevin Costner, almost found tragedy while filming his Academy Award-winning film Dances with Wolves.
Well, there's 20 of us riding in the middle of this herd at full speed. And a horse got out of control and slammed into my horse and knocked me down. I just got up and Norman came over and he had my double horse there and I said, get off. And he did, you know, and I said, bridle that sucker up, and he did. He's a good hand and got back into it. And I just kept riding. About 2 minutes later, we got a great shot out of it.
The challenge that is continually presented to us as visual effects creators, image producers actually, is to show the audience something that they couldn't see in a conventional fashion, something that you can't go photograph on location but appears to have been photographed on location. So the illusion is the thing. That's what we are trying to create, the illusion of reality. Visual effects as a definition is usually multiple elements of film. Those separate images are then combined into a single image and presented to the audience as though they were all photographed at the same time. In Star Wars, you may have seen images including a starfield background, the Death Star, and an X-Wing fighter, or several X-Wing fighters in combat over its surface, and they had lasers being fired from their guns. That broke down in special effects terms into an element of film for each of the fighters, if there were three separate shot on 3 separate elements of film, the Death Star on a separate element of film, the stars on a separate element of film, and the lasers animated on yet another piece of film. So at that point, that multiple element package is composited, in this case in an optical printer, to present the final image. It appears as though those were all shot at the same time. The unique thing, I think, that Star Wars offered up was movement of camera during complex composite shots. Basically, the motion control system allows you to record the movement of camera relative to time. Motion control knows exactly where the camera is during that move and can repeat that move exactly. And what that allows you to do is shoot these separate elements of film with exactly the same camera move, and as a result, when you put the images together at the end, all of the subject matter moves at the same time. And that's what motion control allows you to do.
Apogee Head of Production, John Swallow.
This motion control boom is one of the newest advancements in motion control photography. It's called the Graphite. It was made out of a graphite composite material. On this particular one, it has a video camera in it, and with a new video head. And this camera can do 360 in the yoke itself, pan and tilt, and spin 60 degrees also. The boom has the capability of up and down boom movement, 360-degree spin, and also traverse on the track, where it can move back and forth on that.
A computer-controlled camera setup is an amazing piece of equipment as long as it has a subject to shoot. At Apogee, they can take care of that as well. Models are built in exacting detail and filmed or videotaped in front of either a blue or green screen so that later, that color can be extracted and replaced with another picture. In this case, the fighter is being videotaped in front of a green screen. Later, the green color will be replaced with a videotaped picture of this model planet. Movement of the motion-controlled camera, and you've got a trip through outer space. Sometimes a colored screen will be replaced by what is known as a matte painting.
There's 2 ways to go about doing matte paintings, basically. One is to create an environment that doesn't exist, to go in and paint from scratch a moon, something that we don't have existing photographs on. The way which we've done here is to take a clip out of the film itself, make a large blow-up of this, and then retouch that. What we've done here is it was a summer scene that we needed a winter scene. So we've come in and repainted it, making it a winter scene. What we'll see here, we'll turn the white lights off, and the black lights will come up. It'll show a red area on the painting of where that will be matted out, and we'll put a live-action plate in there, which will give us the water splashing on the islands and around in the bay there. So why don't we go ahead and turn the whites off and the blacks on. And what we'll do on this one, the red is up there, we'll put a red filter on front of the lens, which will knock out the foreground blue on here. And that will give us a cleaner matte edge on the red area so the plate can be put in there.
There's dozens of ways to create any image. You can approach it from the point of view of taking a piece of equipment and say, what is the range of images I can produce with this piece of equipment? That's one way of doing it, and it's valid. There's another approach, which is to say, what is the image I want? My preferred method. What is the image I want, and what technology do I need to create it? The important facet of that, it's like any other tool. I use the analogy of an artist knowing how oil works on canvas, how to make glazes and transparencies, and how to work the paint. Once you've achieved technological prowess so that you know how to make sharp, accurate images, then you have to apply that and bring some artistry to it. And in fact, create something that is not only unlike they've ever seen before, but is also evocative and storytelling in its final quality. The most important thing about visual effects is it's still a facet of making a film. I think that the critical issue in the making of a movie is a team effort to achieve an end result being the story, the telling of that story. The actors, the art direction, the director, everyone involved and focused on that end product. And the motion control systems, the blue screen technology, the optical printers are all just tools that are used to tell that story.
Miniatures, motion control cameras, and matte paintings are tools of special visual effects, and its evolution continues. Dreamquest Images is a company which produced special effects for many films, including Total Recall and The Abyss. Dreamquest Vice President of Production, Keith Shardle.
Dreamquest Images is a company that started in a two-car garage about 11 and a half years ago, and with 6 people. Now we have up to and over 200 people working here, depending on the size of the project. What we're looking at here is a miniature that was constructed for the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 6 installment called Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. And this miniature was used for a point-of-view shot of a boy who is asleep and dreams that he's falling and falling and falling, and eventually falls right onto the roof of his own house, and then he wakes up. We're constructing a replica of the Hollywood Hills and the Hollywood sign. The miniature builders have done a chicken wire over a wood frame, and now they're plastering. And soon they'll be putting they'll be painting it and putting in the details of the scrub brush, and then mounting the Hollywood letters up on this miniature. This is going to be used for a dream sequence in a movie. And the scale is because we want real good size letters. We're going to fly very, very close to those letters. Some of the miniatures that we deal with are quite small, and some are medium size like this. And we've also had miniature landscapes that are 40 by 80 feet. In Total Recall, we had at least 2 that were that size, and they get to be quite large.
The miniatures for Total Recall had many challenges, as special effects supervisor Alex Funky can attest.
When we were working on Total Recall, we had to do a lot of work with explosions. But these are explosions of an unusual kind, because they can't be the kind of traditional pyrotechnics where you go into a lot of high explosive and blow things up. These had to be explosions that were supposed to be on such an enormous scale that they had a kind of pushing effect. Instead of just blasting everything to bits in an instant, they had to have this tremendous kind of push, because we're talking about explosions that are almost on a planetary scale. Entire mountains being blown to pieces, enormous 5-mile square internal structures starting to activate, and giant chunks of ice the size of Greyhound buses being thrown through the air, all done in miniature. Okay, now, to do this, we went up to Ventura, to the state fairgrounds, to rent an enormous former blimp hangar, because that was the only space we found that was big enough to build this miniature, that it had a large enough clear span. We need an 80-foot high ceiling. Built the miniature mountain, which was exploded by means of air cannons and liquid nitrogen jets, steam, chemical smoke, just about every kind of device you can think of to blow things up. So we had all kinds of people, chemists working on it, and engineers solving these problems. It's, as anything else, it's a kind of a plodding thing. You solve one thing, and you discover that when you lift up that problem, there's 10 more hiding underneath it. And, but eventually you get it, and then you keep refining it. Let's look again at the case of the scene where McQuaid has managed to turn on this vast, never-before-used alien reactor that's going to melt the entire core of Mars and release the atmosphere. Well, in order to do that, there's gigantic rods. They're supposed to be 100 feet in diameter. They come down into the ice, and they set it on fire, and they liquefy it. And the problem is, okay, this is built as a miniature. It's quite a large miniature, as miniatures go, but it's still reasonable size. How do you generate something that appears to be red hot, but you can't actually heat it up because it's all made out of plastic? Well, we did this by using a material called Scotch-Lite, which behaves essentially like an almost perfect mirror. So that means if you put a very small but very bright orange light right next to the camera lens, when you turn that on, wherever you've put that Scotch-Lite, it comes back brilliantly flaming hot. The beauty of this is that it doesn't involve any heat, which means you can build the set reasonably. You don't have huge lights burning that are going to melt everything. You can do it. It's completely heatless, and yet it looks red hot.
Visual effects is not only used to create fantasy worlds and fantasy environments. It can also be used, for example, with matte paintings to create historical places that no longer exist. And it can also be used to allow actors to be put in very dangerous situations, or seemingly so, without really ever endangering the actor. And we do that by shooting an actor in front of a blue screen. And then perhaps we have a miniature behind him. So there's a wide variety of things we can do there.
Building miniatures for motion pictures is no small feat.
This is Falls Lake on the back lot of Universal Studios Hollywood.
It's been used for everything from naval battles to horror films. Add a ship or two, some period costumes, you've got the Spanish Main. Add a few palm trees, some pretty girls, it's the South Pacific. Hurricanes, typhoons, naval battles, pirate attacks, shipwrecks. These were some of the most visual and most difficult stunts to stage. As filmmaking became more sophisticated, producers decided that if viewers loved water stunts that took place above the surface, they'd really be wild about underwater stunts. Walt Disney's classic 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
Giant squid astern, sir.
Movie audiences were awed and terrified by the attack of the monster squid. When the film was produced in 1954, the effects were state-of-the-art. But today's more sophisticated audiences might not be as easily taken in by the miniature work and puppetry. As James Mason and Kirk Douglas fought off this beastly marionette, little did they know that they were laying the groundwork for underwater film effects.